Have you ever looked someone in the eyes and realized they don't see your worth? That gut punch moment when someone talks over you, laughs at your ideas, or treats you like you don't matter. It's not just disrespect. It's a mirror that reflects their insecurity, not your inadequacy. But here's the real question: what do you do when people don't respect you? Do you fight back, stay silent, or do you rise above it in a way that commands respect without demanding it? Let's start with something most people get wrong. Respect is not something you ask for, it's something you inspire. The moment you chase it, you lose it. The moment you embody it, you attract it. And that's the first truth most of us never learn until we've been disrespected enough times to finally stop trying to prove our value. You see, disrespect doesn't define you, it reveals them. The loudest voice in the room is usually the weakest one. The person who mocks others is often running from their own failures. When you understand that, something shifts. You stop taking it personally. You stop letting their tone dictate your worth. You start leading from a place of calm confidence and quiet strength. But that doesn't mean you become passive. No, it means you become strategic. It means you learn to respond, not react. Because reacting feeds their ego, but responding demonstrates mastery. That's the difference between being respected and being controlled. Here's the truth: people who disrespect others are testing boundaries. They want to see what they can get away with. And every time you let it slide without clarity, you teach them how to treat you. Respect isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in moments of courage. When you calmly say, "That's not okay." When you hold eye contact instead of backing down. When you walk away from circles that make you feel small, not because you're weak, but because you've outgrown their energy. In this journey, you'll face rejection, misunderstanding, even loneliness. But don't confuse loneliness with loss. Sometimes losing people who never respected you is the first step to finding peace within yourself. And that's where real respect begins, not in their approval, but in your alignment. The hardest lesson you'll ever learn is that not everyone who smiles at you respects you. Some people clap when you fail because it makes them feel taller. Some people ignore your ideas not because they're bad, but because they didn't think of them first. And if you spend your life trying to win their approval, you'll trade your peace for their permission. When I first started my career, I thought respect was earned by pleasing people, by saying yes, by working harder, by proving myself over and over again. But here's what I discovered. People don't respect perfection, they respect authenticity. The moment you stop pretending to be what they want, they're forced to see who you truly are. And that's when things start to shift. Respect grows in the soil of self-respect. You can't expect someone else to treat you better than you treat yourself. So ask yourself, how do you speak to you? What do you tolerate from others because you're afraid to be alone? How many times have you laughed at an insult just to keep the peace? That's not peace. That's quiet suffering. Every time you let someone cross a boundary, you whisper to yourself that your comfort doesn't matter. And over time, your spirit starts to believe it. But the moment you draw that line, the moment you say, "No, this isn't acceptable," something powerful happens. You stop needing their validation. You start building your own respect from within. Here's the paradox: people who truly respect you will never make you earn it through pain. They'll give it freely because they see your value as non-negotiable. And those who don't, you'll start noticing how small their opinions become once you stop chasing them. So the next time someone dismisses you, interrupts you, or treats you like you're less, don't raise your voice. Raise your standard. Speak calmly, act decisively, and let silence do the heavy lifting. Silence makes insecure people uncomfortable because it forces them to face themselves. And remember, being disrespected is not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you're in an environment that can no longer hold your growth. Some people will only respect you once you walk away. And by then, you'll realize you never needed their respect in the first place. Here's a truth most people don't want to face. People treat you the way you allow them to. Respect isn't stolen, it's surrendered, slowly, quietly, in the moments you don't speak up. Every time you say, "It's fine," when it isn't, every time you minimize your hurt to keep the peace, every time you shrink so someone else can shine, you're teaching them who you are willing to be. I remember a young professional who once told me, "They talk over me in every meeting. I don't know how to make them stop." I asked her, "Why do you let them?" She paused, then said, "Because I don't want to seem rude." That's the trap, confusing assertiveness with arrogance. Respecting yourself sometimes means disappointing others. It means daring to be seen as too much rather than being ignored as not enough. Here's something powerful: boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. They don't keep people out, they show people how to come in. When you clearly communicate what's acceptable, you give others a choice to step up or step out. And either way, you win. Let's be honest, disrespect hurts. It cuts deep because it touches that part of us that wants to belong. But belonging built on disrespect isn't belonging, it's bondage. The people who truly deserve a seat at your table will never make you beg for one. The moment you stop defending your value, people start to notice it. There's a quiet power in not explaining yourself. When someone tries to belittle you, smile. Not the fake smile that hides pain, but the real one that says, "I see who you are, and it's not my job to fix it." That's emotional maturity, not needing to win every battle, because you've already won the war inside yourself, the war of needing to be liked. The war of seeking approval, The war of believing you have to earn basic respect. Disrespect loses its power the moment you realize it can't touch your worth. It can bruise your ego, but not your identity. So the next time someone underestimates you, don't argue. Let your consistency prove what your words no longer need to explain. Because people may doubt what you say, but they'll always believe what you do. Think about the last time someone disrespected you. Maybe it was a boss who dismissed your idea. Maybe it was a friend who made a joke at your expense. Maybe it was family, and that one hurts the most because we expect them to see us. The truth is, the people closest to us often test our boundaries the hardest. And if we're not careful, we end up teaching them that our feelings don't matter as much as keeping the peace. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if the reason they keep disrespecting you is because you've made it easy? Not because you're weak, but because you're kind, because you value harmony more than honesty, because you think silence will earn you safety. But silence never earns respect. It only protects the disrespectful. One of the greatest lessons in leadership and in life is that how you allow people to treat you teaches them how to treat others. When you tolerate disrespect, you normalize it, not just for yourself, but for everyone watching. And yes, people are always watching. I remember a team I once worked with. One person constantly interrupted others. Loud, opinionated, always needed the last word. Everyone rolled their eyes behind his back, but no one ever said anything. Until one day someone finally did, calmly, directly. No anger, no sarcasm, just truth. I feel unheard when you interrupt me. The room went quiet. That moment changed the culture. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was honest. That's what respect looks like in action. Honesty without hostility, courage without cruelty. The willingness to speak up, not to win, but to grow. We often think respect is built in grand moments, applause, recognition, authority. It's not. Respect is built in quiet choices, in the tone you use when you disagree, in the restraint you show when provoked, in the way you hold your ground when someone tests your patience. And here's the paradox: the more you respect yourself, the less you need to prove anything. You don't chase validation. You don't fight every insult. You don't demand acknowledgement. You become unshakable because real power isn't loud, it's calm, it's grounded, it's the quiet confidence that says, I know who I am, even when you don't. That's how leaders are made, not in titles, but in the way they respond when disrespected. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you build piece by piece through the way you carry yourself. But here's what most people don't realize: confidence isn't loud. It doesn't walk into a room and shout, look at me. It walks in quietly and says, I belong here. And that shift from proving to belonging is where true self-respect begins. When people don't respect you, your instinct might be to prove them wrong, to work harder, speak louder, show them what they missed. But that only gives them control. They decide your pace. They define your worth. And you end up running a race you can never win because their validation was never yours to chase in the first place. The most powerful response to disrespect is progress. It's showing up not to impress them, but to honor yourself. It's choosing to grow so tall that their opinion can't reach you anymore. When they expect you to break, you build. When they expect you to react, you rise. When they expect you to crumble, you create. I once knew a man who was constantly underestimated, overlooked for promotions, ignored in meetings, even mocked for being too quiet. Instead of arguing, he listened. He learned. He improved. And one day, when the company needed someone dependable to lead a major project, guess who they called? The man no one respected, until they needed someone they could trust. That's the thing about respect: it finds its way to those who earn it through patience and consistency. You can't demand it. You attract it by becoming so good, so dependable, so aligned with your values that ignoring you becomes impossible. So when someone disrespects you, don't waste your energy on revenge. Use that energy to refine yourself. Become so intentional, so focused, that your growth itself becomes your response. Because growth is the most silent and devastating form of revenge. And here's what you'll discover over time: the people who once dismissed you will start looking up to you. Some will even ask for your advice. That's not the time to gloat. That's the time to lead. Because respect gained through bitterness is temporary, but respect earned through character is unshakable. You don't need everyone to respect you. You just need to respect yourself enough that their lack of it doesn't shake you. There's a moment, right after someone disrespects you, when your heart races and your mind screams, say something. You feel that surge of anger, the sting of injustice, and you want to fight back. But that moment right there is where respect is either built or broken. Because anyone can react, only the strong know how to respond. Emotional intelligence isn't about staying quiet or pretending you're unaffected. It's about mastering your emotions so completely that no one else can control them. When you respond calmly to disrespect, you don't look weak, you look powerful. Because you're showing that their behavior can't shake your center. Let me tell you something most people never learn: disrespect is a test of emotional control. The person who tries to provoke you isn't always after your failure. Sometimes they're after your peace. They want to see if they can make you lose yourself. When you refuse to take the bait, you show them something they don't expect: strength without noise. I remember a conversation between two leaders. One was loud, forceful, always trying to dominate. The other was composed, listening, calm. The loud one said, "Why don't you ever fight back?" The calm one smiled and said, "Because my respect isn't up for negotiation." That's leadership. That's power. See, the goal isn't to silence people who disrespect you. It's to silence the voice in your head that believes them. Once you master that, you become untouchable. You stop being controlled by how people treat you and start being guided by how you treat yourself. Here's the shift. Instead of thinking, they disrespected me, start thinking they revealed who they are. That simple mindset changes everything. It takes you from victim to observer, from reaction to reflection. And reflection is where wisdom lies. You can't stop people from being rude, insecure, or unkind, but you can decide what their behavior means to you. You can choose to respond with empathy instead of ego. You can choose to protect your peace instead of proving your point. And when you do that, when you remain calm in the face of chaos, people notice. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you stood the tallest. That's emotional intelligence. That's what earns respect that lasts longer than any argument ever could. Respect isn't something you demand, it's something you demonstrate day after day through your consistency. People don't follow titles, they follow examples. They don't remember what you say when everything is easy. They remember how you act when everything is falling apart. That's when true respect is built. Not in calm waters, but in the storm. When you handle disrespect with composure, people watch you more closely than you think. They notice how you keep your tone steady, how you don't rush to defend yourself, how you continue doing your work with quiet excellence. That's how leaders emerge, not by fighting for recognition, but by standing firm in their values when no one's clapping. Consistency is a form of strength most people overlook. Anyone can be respectful once, few can do it daily, especially under pressure. The way you treat people who can't benefit you says more about your character than any speech you give. And when others realize your respect isn't conditional, that it doesn't depend on how they treat you, that's when they begin to respect you for real. But here's the irony: consistency will test you. People will mock it. They'll call you too serious, too kind, too calm. But remember, those words usually come from people who don't understand discipline. Respect built on consistency isn't about perfection. It's about integrity. It's about choosing your principles over your pride. I once met a manager who never raised his voice ever. No matter how heated things got, he stayed calm. I asked him how he did it. He said, "If I lose my temper, I give them permission to lose theirs too." That's leadership. It's not about control, it's about example. When you embody the respect you expect, you teach people how to behave around you. And over time, something amazing happens. Even the ones who once disrespected you start adjusting their tone, their words, their attitude. Not because you forced them, but because you modeled a better way. Respect is contagious when it's consistent. You don't have to demand it. Just live it, breathe it, and stand by it. People eventually catch up. Because the truth is, respect doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being reliable. From being the person others can trust to stay grounded when everything else feels unstable. That's how real influence begins. Every moment of disrespect carries a hidden invitation. The chance to grow stronger, wiser, more grounded. The truth is, people who disrespect you are often the greatest teachers you never ask for. They reveal your triggers. They expose the places where your confidence still wavers. They force you to decide whether you'll stay small or rise above. Growth rarely feels good. It doesn't come wrapped in applause or validation. Sometimes it arrives in the form of criticism, doubt, or silence. But when you use those moments as mirrors instead of wounds, you begin to see yourself differently. You stop asking, "Why don't they respect me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" That shift transforms pain into power. There was a young designer I once met, talented, creative, full of ideas. Her boss constantly belittled her, taking credit for her work, questioning her decisions. Instead of quitting immediately, she decided to learn everything she could, not from his disrespect, but from his weakness. She watched how he led with fear, and she promised herself she'd never lead that way. Years later, when she started her own company, her employees adored her. Why? Because she treated them the exact opposite of how she'd been treated. Disrespect taught her what respect really looks like. That's the secret. Disrespect can refine your character if you let it. It can teach you empathy, humility, resilience. You learn to see people's actions as reflections of their own insecurities, not your worth. You start responding with wisdom instead of wounds. And in that transformation, you discover that your peace isn't dependent on their behavior. It's protected by your boundaries. But let's be honest, it takes courage to grow this way. It's easier to stay angry, to blame, to resent. But every time you choose growth over bitterness, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that you are in control of your story, no matter how others treat you. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause and ask yourself, what is this teaching me? Maybe it's patience. Maybe it's self-control. Maybe it's that you've outgrown this environment. Whatever it is, use it. Don't waste the pain. Turn it into progress. Because one day, you'll look back and realize, the moments that hurt the most were the ones that made you unbreakable. There comes a moment when you stop asking people to treat you right, and you start showing them how. That's not arrogance, that's awareness. You realize that the way you carry yourself, the way you walk into a room, the way you look someone in the eye without fear, it all communicates something louder than words, "I respect myself." And when you do, the world begins to adjust. Disrespect loses its power when you stop reacting to it. You begin to see it for what it is: noise, temporary, small. People who thrive on putting others down are driven by emptiness. Their need to control, to belittle, to prove themselves is born from insecurity. And you don't owe them your reaction. You owe yourself your peace. It's not your job to fix people who don't respect you. It's your job to protect your energy from them. Some people can't hear you until they lose access to you. So stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Let your distance say what your words can't. You don't need to slam the door. Just stop standing in the doorway waiting for them to see your value. Walk to move on. The right people will notice your absence. The wrong ones won't even understand what they lost. Both outcomes set you free. Here's something few understand: commanding respect isn't about domination. It's about alignment. It's about living in such truth and integrity that people feel your energy before you speak. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's powerful because it's authentic. Think about it. The calmest person in the room often has the most authority. Why? Because calmness signals control, confidence, presence. When you stay composed in the face of disrespect, you communicate a message far stronger than anger ever could. You cannot pull me into your chaos. You begin to lead by example, not explanation. You teach through your poise. You inspire through your patience. And soon the same people who underestimated you begin to adjust their tone, not because you demanded it, but because your energy requires it. That's the moment you realize you've stopped reacting and started leading. You've stopped chasing and started choosing. You no longer need to prove your worth to anyone, because those who truly see you will never ask you to. So here's the truth. Respect isn't about how others see you. It's about how you choose to see yourself when they don't. You can spend your whole life trying to earn the approval of people who will never give it, or you can decide right here, right now, that your value isn't negotiable, that it never depended on them, that it was always within you. There will always be people who misunderstand your calm as weakness, your kindness as naivety, your silence as surrender. Let them, because your life isn't a courtroom. You're not here to prove your worth to a jury of small minds. You're here to live with purpose, integrity, and peace. The most powerful people aren't the loudest. They're the most centered. They don't waste energy convincing others to respect them. They live in a way that makes disrespect look foolish. That's what real confidence is: quiet, steady, and deeply grounded. So when disrespect comes, and don't see it as an insult. See it as information. It tells you who's ready to meet you at your level and who's not. It helps you refine your circle, clarify your standards, and reinforce your boundaries. Every encounter becomes either a lesson or a reminder, but never a loss. And when you finally stop chasing respect, something extraordinary happens. You attract it. Not because you begged for it, but because you embodied it. You start walking differently, talking differently. You make decisions that honor your peace instead of your pride. And people notice. Not because you demanded attention, but because your presence commands it. So here's my challenge to you. Stop fighting for people to see your worth. Start living like you already know it. Respect isn't something you wait to receive. It's something you radiate. It begins with how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you show up when no one's watching. Because when you live with integrity, when you walk in purpose, when you protect your peace, the right people will recognize it, the wrong people will remove themselves, and you'll finally be free. Not respected by everyone, but respected by the only person who truly matters in the end: you.